Greetings. Welcome to the Richard Dolan Show. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. There's a lot happening behind the scenes right now when it comes to the UAP or UFO issue. And I think most of it we're not seeing, the public is not seeing. Hearings have stalled. We did have a hearing a couple of months ago, but Congress is distracted. Congress is shut down. The government shut down. But there is a steady current of testimony, investigation, maybe you could call it quiet maneuvering, still going on in Washington. That is the strong opinion of my guest today, Allan Lavigne, a very good friend of the show and a friend of mine. Allan has been following that world very closely. Just want to mention before I bring him on, Allan's background in federal law enforcement and counter surveillance, as well as being an excellent artist. He's done the illustrations of my USO book series, so there is that. But Allan's got a very, very extensive background that I think gives him a perspective that is valuable in this discussion. And he's been in touch with people in and around the intelligence community and congressional staff that are watching this process unfold from the inside. So we're going to talk about what he's hearing, rumors, realities, maybe the reasons why this topic is remaining so sensitive. So, Allan, welcome to the program. It's good to have you back again.
Thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah. So maybe we should start off. I'll just let folks know, you and I, we correspond behind the scenes, and you have been saying a few things to me about what you think is going on behind the scenes. And particularly, I'll just say this, you have said things that you've said that things are coming to a head behind closed doors. So I would really be interested in you expanding on that. And what do you see as the main pressure points? Are we talking, is it media exposure or internal whistleblower momentum or something else? What's going on, and why do you say things are coming to a head behind the scenes relating to the UAP topic?
Well, I think skeptics are gleeful over what they heard during Disclosure Day, which I call Groundhog Day because we seem to be going over the same thing again and again. That disclosure is dead. Well, rumors of disclosure being dead have been greatly exaggerated. Things are moving. They've been moving at a fast rate. The UAP bill, though, in its new legislative form, did not pass. The original UAP bill did pass back in the 2024.
24, right?
Yeah. Thing, and 4 of the 6 major provisions passed. The challenge with that was the enforcement provisions within the bill were not codified. So if someone disobeys and doesn't do what the bill says to do, there's no enforcement mechanism. But things are moving along. The National Archives has been collecting documents from government offices since and releasing those to their website since April of 2025 here. And if you go on their website, just look up UAP, and they have a whole host of documents, new documents. Some are the community would be familiar with. They have some very good high resolution photographs that are seldom seen today, that a lot of people, new researchers and stuff, probably aren't familiar with. But they have a lot of new documents and a lot of new information from all the different government offices. And it continues, well, at least it did continue up until the shutdown. And right now, the National Archives is shut down because of the things going on in Congress with the budget. But it doesn't mean that Congress, who was sent home, is just twiddling their thumbs. Members of the task force are still receiving information. There were whistleblowers' testimony already taken, and there was plans to possibly do another hearing before the end of the year. That doesn't look likely now. But most recently, and one of the ones who will likely be in this next one is Dan Sherman, who Jesse Michaels just did an interview with.
Yeah, we could chat about that later. I think that was a very interesting interview for sure. Over 3 hours, very detailed.
It was a mic drop moment. I mean, if you had that in the the Congress's hearing, I think it'd be very influential. And there are others equally sensitive and important that can be extrapolated on, that are still working with law enforcement as well.
So I want you to keep going because this is very important, but are you able, I don't want you to give up sensitive sources, who you're talking to, I understand, but can you give us at least an idea of why you are, I guess I'll say, confident in saying that there's actually still a lot going on behind the scenes? And I mean, are you able to say, like, are there certain committees or staff offices that seem to be driving this, like Senate Intelligence or Armed Services or some kind of mix? But also, how are you getting your information about any of the inside momentum? And also, before we're done, you mentioned to me that transcripts there's transcripts will be declassified. I think you were, or made public in some way.
Okay, let me caveat that, because this is
so you just go. I would just answer those.
This is the juxtaposition that I have between the UAP bill and what I believe the method should be taken. And I would share this with Danny if he was here, that this is
Danny
really
Sheehan.
Danny Sheehan. This is really the way we need to go after this. The UAP bill is, to me, very similar to how Congress responds to many issues in the national consciousness. They go, oh, we'll make a new law and we'll settle this with a new law. The laws within the UAP bill, like eminent domain, already exist. The federal government under Title 18, U.S. Code 831, 832 already have eminent domain to seize any unregistered nuclear material, weapons of mass destruction, or anything that threatens the national security, health and safety of the general public. That's always existed. Ask Bob Lazar. He's been raided twice. So to say, oh, no, they can't go into a private company and start searching it and turning it upside, absolutely they can. And if you get on, I
just want to mention, I had this conversation on Global Disclosure Day, Groundhog Day, as you call it, with Carl Nell, retired colonel of the U.S. Army. Some people have probably heard that, so others haven't. But Carl pointed out, like, his position. I don't want to misunderstand him, but he said, look, the eminent domain part of that law was important because we don't really have any legal examples of private companies having extraterrestrial technology. And I guess, like, I think that was an important element of why he felt the eminent domain clause was significant, because I think it was just to make it clear to these companies that this could happen, and that the federal government needed to have a means by which to access this technology. You're saying it's already implied, or that the U.S. government already has it. I think you felt it was important to put it in anyway.
Schumer said in his after the first UAP bill, again, the first one passed. It was stripped down, but it was passed. In his conversation with reporters afterwards, Schumer said it was intended as a shot across the bow to those involved, that we know who you are and we know what you're doing. So in that definition, what Schumer was saying and what the bill was saying is, we know you have extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence technology. Yeah. Well, okay, that doesn't prohibit the federal government from seizing anything that was given to them that comes under the statute. Non-registered nuclear materials, weapons of mass destruction, which
but like, what if there's what if there are covert legal agreements between the private entities, Lockheed, let's just say Lockheed Martin, and the U.S. government? I mean, isn't it possible that there's something, a covert legal arrangement that we just don't know about, that might obviate eminent domain? I mean, I don't know if that's the case or not, but
you have, federal supremacy. under the title. So whatever they wrote, and this comes up. I mean, we had the Supreme Court had to sell this last one with President Trump's classified documents at his home in Mar-a-Lago.
Mhm.
The Supreme Court said no, that he has the right to, declassify anything, even with a thought. It's declassified. And the same thing has come up with, because the DOE has provisions that you need certain intelligence agencies to sign off on the release of classified information, et cetera, et cetera. And the White House legal staff has said no, because that's come up. And they said, no, you can, if the president wants it, he gets it. If he wants it declassified, he doesn't have to jump through hoops or anything. And they've used the eminent domain for even minor things. Gibson Guitar was raided because they bought rosewood from Madagascar instead of India, I forget, or vice versa. And that was against the trade policy. And so they sent the FBI SWAT team in to forcibly seize the rosewood.
Wow.
So you think they wouldn't go in after a spacecraft? It's ludicrous. Of course they would.
Okay.
Bob Lazar has been raided twice. Now,
fair enough. All right. So thank you for that. So to keep going here, I mean, try to describe.
You asked about the transcripts. You asked about the transcripts. Okay, so what are we talking about? When the UAP Task Force was assembled, they recruited, and Carl Nell was part of this, and Jay Stratton. They recruited David Grush as the lead investigator, gave him a staff to go out and investigate. Hey, tell us what this UAP thing is all about, and who knows what, and whatever. And with Senator Harry Reid's help, David went out and did this. He assembled and began bringing before the Select Intelligence Committee witnesses involved in legacy programs, involved in private contracting. You had engineers, managers, scientists, etc. More than 40, according to David Grush's testimony before the Congress in public sworn testimony, he claimed more than 40 witnesses. Now, we know since that time, additional witnesses have been brought before the committee. Initially, the Permanent Select Intelligence Committee with the Senate was headed by Marco Rubio. Now, people go like, oh, Marco Rubio, oh, yeah, he's going to be in the Age of Disclosure documentary here at the end of November. Well, no one asked, well, how's he know this stuff? Because he sat on almost 3 years of testimony from legacy program operators. Okay, all that information was placed in transcripts along with their physical evidence, which, according to David Grush, included signals, data, radar data, film, photographs, videotape, and even metamaterial.
No doubt those transcripts are there. I don't know if it's normal for these committees to release transcripts of behind like closed door types of testimony. Is this something that happens? I don't think that it is.
It does happen. The last time it happened was 2014 when the Select Intelligence Committee released the sworn testimony of whistleblowers pertaining to the CIA torture program from the black sites overseas where they were waterboarding prisoners and stuff. And it simply requires that the 21 members of the committee have a majority vote to release and declassify transcripts. They don't have to get permission from the president or the executive branch. They just need to notify them within 24 hours that they are releasing it. And so it's an easy thing to do. In speaking with people, the concern with the rank and file within Congress, not the Senate, but within Congress, is the effect that releasing this type of information would have on the economy in general, not just for our national economy, but the worldwide economy. That's one caveat.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's very seldom discussed, and I agree with you. That's a very important consideration, without a doubt.
yeah, the stock market hates uncertainty, and you would be raising uncertainty even if there was nothing within our possession that we could use. You just have the spacecraft. Just the uncertainty of what could come out about it. How is it going to affect transportation, energy sectors, medical sectors? Um,
There's a
this
lot
would,
of money invested in a huge infrastructure worldwide that would affect many technologies. I would think future markets. There's a lot that would be thrown into confusion. A lot of people might say, great, let it be thrown into confusion. It all needs to come down. But we all have to live through that. So
yeah, yeah. And it would also destabilize, I think, a lot of governments, because you're going to be asked, okay, have you spoken to these aliens? I mean, what kind of deals have we made? Blah, blah, blah. And some people are going to be very unsatisfied with the existing governments. They already don't trust most governments. And if you know, okay,
not much reason to trust them.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of concern there. So it's something that governments outside the United States, I don't even think would consider. Certainly China would never consider doing it. Russia, and goes back to something David Grush had said, Russia was considering it, according to him. And he got that information through intelligence that he saw during his time at the NRO.
So Russia would consider doing a disclosure of some sort?
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder about that. I personally don't think so, but you can't rule it out. China, I'm thinking absolutely no way.
No way.
China,
I don't see them doing it.
Way too.
Russia might leverage it to get industry going their way. You know, hey, we got this information. Come to Russia, and we'll help you, and you can help us, and could stimulate their economy. As opposed to we go like, oh,
yeah, I'm doubtful. I think
that's what they were. Yeah, that was 2 years ago when David spoke at that private meeting in, I believe it was in New York
City, with all the hedge fund people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
that's where he talked about knowing of a craft that was larger on the inside than on the outside.
Yeah, 40 feet on the outside, 400 feet on the inside.
Yeah, we've all kind of stopped talking about that one, huh? That's an interesting
thing. And it was creating a I don't know how to pronounce it, a trilowatt worth of energy.
Right.
Yeah. And that goes back to Carl now. Okay. Why did Carl want the slow roll, controlled disclosure, Silicon Valley centric? It's not because of transportation, it's because of energy. Right now, and we're certainly seeing it in California, and I imagine you're going to see it in your neck of the woods too, utility bills are just skyrocketing. And that's not because it's not because out here they've shut down all the nuclear power plants. It's because they need to fund all the server farms that AI is producing. The plan currently is to for these companies like Meta and ChatGPT and everyone who's building them, is to have tiny nuclear power plants on location to fuel them. But what if you had a nuclear accelerator that could fit on a coffee table to fuel these plants? One that could create a trilowatt worth of energy. It could fuel all of the server farms all over the United States. That's the golden ticket that everybody wants.
Yeah. Well, now is that a problem? I mean, I want to get back to about Congress and behind the scenes, but this is too interesting to ignore. So if there's a lot of disruption that would come out of a disclosure. So let's say one of those disruptions is knowledge of this type of energy source that would essentially rewrite our entire global energy paradigm. My feeling is there would be many more people that would want that to happen than the reverse. You may have some entrenched energy interests, but you would have an entire financial community. Everyone knows cheap energy equals economic growth. Cheap energy means money in the bank. So I would think if such a thing were seen as feasible, that would not, don't you think that would be a fast rollout type of idea rather than slow rollout?
It's who gets it. Because right now you have a prototype, let's say, that needs to be exploited to make this a reality. Whether it's the fuel that it uses or the material science required to build another one, who's going to get it? The old energy resources, the military industrial complex sees this as their property. The Silicon Valley startups and hedge fund managers go like, man, we'd love to get this stuff. Now, this is something that is just a prototype right now.
Yeah, we're looking at a behind the scenes power struggle here over
exactly. So the rollout, it's not the rollout, it's the acquisition. Who gets it? Now, they didn't want Bigelow to get it because he was an upstart. He wasn't part of the family. He was a member of the club. He wasn't
we want to talk about this too. The whole 2008, 2009 failed transfer. Because I'm firmly believing this thing, it looks like that thing, that's real. That thing.
Oh, yeah, it's real. I mean,
twice.
I shared the contract with you. It's all spelled out there. It's open source. Anybody can take a look at that contract. Spells it out what they had and what they were giving them. So there's no doubt there. Bring that up in Congress. Have that put up on a big.
That's a hearing that needs to happen. This whole Bigelow, Lockheed Martin, CIA nexus of this failed transfer of Lockheed acquired ET Tech, probably a Tic Tac UFO. Maybe this is where Ross Coulthart was coming at when he talked about the Tic Tac is Lockheed Tech. Yeah. I'm guessing acquired tech.
Yeah, exactly.
But this whole thing, this was the purpose of OSAP back in 08 or so. They wanted to segue this technology to Bigelow, and it failed.
Yeah,
twice.
And the CIA wanted to keep it in the family. Wanted to keep it in the military-industrial complex.
This is low-hanging fruit, begging to be a congressional hearing. Seems to me.
Exactly, and that's why I'm sharing this thing with the transcripts, release of these transcripts, because we have 3 years. We have 3 years of testimony and physical evidence pertaining to the legacy back engineering program. It's right there.
But the last time this happened, you said, was 2014. That's 11 years, so it's not like this happens all the time.
No, it doesn't happen all the time,
or even frequently.
Yeah, that's correct, but it doesn't mean it can't happen.
Okay,
I mean, this is why Marco Rubio knows what he knows. And all these talking heads you're going to see on the Age of Disclosure, this is how they know what they know. I've shared this a number of times in posts and stuff. Yeah. If you add up all the staffers, the lawyers, their stenographers, and the actual principals within the Select Intelligence Committee, you have over 200 plus individuals in the Senate and Intelligence Committee, Armed Services Committee, Inspector General's Community Intelligence Office. All of them have had access to this. Now, Luna, she now has Title 50 and Title 10 security clearance, which allows her to look at these transcripts. She couldn't release them. That would have to be the Senate Select Intelligence Committee to release them, but she can look at them. Whether she has done that yet, I don't believe she has. But they're available to her. And this tells the entire story. Now,
and if they were released, it would clearly be that's nuclear. That's just incredible information in those transcripts.
And that's why I say you've got 21 members of this committee. You only have to convince a majority of them to vote yes to release it. That's what I feel Danny's efforts should be placed for. And that's what I've encouraged everyone that I know that's in that circle. I've said, this is where you need to go. I often get blank stares when I share that, and they go back to the UAP bill. I go like, forget that. Go after, this is the evidence right here. Here's the evidence. This is a smoking gun. Have them release this. It's all there.
The transcripts.
Just release these transcripts. Now you can, if there are programs other than the legacy programs involved in it that they found through a chain of evidence from this program to this program to this program, you can, delete that part. You can delete names that are involved, like investigators and things. But if you release what was testified to, you've got the whole 9 yards right there.
Let me ask you, is this an aspirational thing? Like, I would love to get the transcripts released, or is this something that you think realistically could happen?
Oh, I believe it realistically could happen. And I believe that's what eventually will happen. It's because if the executive branch, I'll say the president makes an announcement, yes, we're not alone. He's not going to go into details. He's not going to show you a flying saucer. He's not going to, bring a dead body out or anything like that. He's going to say, yes, it's true. We got our best people working on it. We'll get back with you. That's it. It's not going to go further than that. It's like announcing a new stealth bomber or new, like the Golden Dome thing. They're not going to give you plans about the Golden Dome. They haven't even really spoken in detail.
Is it the Iron Dome?
No, it's the Golden Dome.
That's
for the United States. The Iron Dome is what's in the Middle East.
Israel.
Yeah. The Golden Dome would be a similar project for the United States, and they're not going to give you any details. I mean, how many details do you know of the Star Wars program back during the Reagan year? You can go online and look at some illustrations and stuff. They're okay. How are you going to do this? You just see icons shooting at different things. So if the president came out and said he's not going to give you the details, is right now, and this is a matter of prosecutorial discretion, the Inspector General's office that does have access to these transcripts already has probable cause to go to the DOJ and ask for warrants to be issued for people involved in illegally obtaining funds for these projects without congressional review. Now, the reason that isn't done is if you ask for this warrant and an indictment, you got to line out, okay, what was the probable cause? Who was involved?
Right.
All the details. Well, that's a disclosure. Now you're giving it to the entire Department of Justice. Everyone knows, and that could be a sealed warrant and indictment, but which I imagine it would have to be because of sensitivity. But they could do that now. There's enough there now to do that.
Fair enough, but like, who are the people motivated to do this? I don't want you. I mean, as much as you're able to provide a judgment or assessment of this, what are the forces? What are the departments, or who are the people behind the scenes who actually are interested in who would be interested in making these transcripts come public?
The task force is interested in it. In fact, as of 70, I can say I'm pretty sure it's been 72 hours. I was told in a interrogatory right here on my little computer. Yeah. Things are moving along behind the scenes, blah, blah, blah. Very credible source. Someone who has spoken at length to the congressional and to the Senate. Someone that if I share more detail, you would know immediately.
Okay.
So this is one of the things, and I said this about when everyone was trying to guess who was going to be speaking before Congress. I said, no, don't do it. And I was on a couple of podcasts. I said, do not speculate, because you're just hurting the process, and you're placing people in the firing line that are going to come under scrutiny now that they're going to try and either derail, or people that have nothing to do with it, or innocent bystanders who may know a little something and not something, they're going to be targeted as examples. So it's not that I want to be clandestine or anything like that, but it just hurts the process to say, oh, so-and-so just said this, and they're doing that, and they're going, okay, we need to get on.
I'm not trying to do anything like that to you. Yeah.
No, I know. Oh, no, please.
If you say you have good reason and good people, then, I'm willing to accept that. Probably many people listening will. Others won't be. They'll be like, you got to show us the receipts. But I get it.
I'm sharing it with your audience. I'm sharing it with your audience because I know, Richard, just given your credentials, that you know a lot about this as well. We don't all go on and spill our guts about everything we know and everything we're doing and everything. It's just,
that's right.
It's private. it's private.
That's understood. I'm satisfied with that. I mean,
but I'm saying that Senate release, the Select Intelligence Committee release, is really where we need to focus our attention, not another, because they're thinking, well, next year we'll do the UAP bill again. No, forget the friggin' UAP bill. The information's already there. Let's direct our attention to these 21 members of the Senate Select Intelligence Committee and lobby them through petition, through email, through phone calls, the same way you lobby your senators about anything. These guys are voted to, and they're coming up on a very important, the midterm election. So what better time than to approach them now? Hey, I'm, such and such Republican or Democrat, and, I want to see this and this. That's how it's done in a democracy.
All right, so this is good. So let's talk about realistic paths for these transcripts and testimony to reach the public. One, public pressure, people writing to their members of Congress or senators, right?
Right.
Any other means by which
task force. The secret task force needs to get involved, and like I said, Luna has access to transcripts. I don't know if Burleson has Title 50 clearance, but I know she does.
Okay.
But David does. But he was in all these meetings, so he already knows.
David Grush, you mean?
David Grush,
a consultant for Burleson. Yeah.
I think this Age of Disclosure documentary is going to be significant in that you're going to see people within the documentary that are, former members of the Intelligence Committee or current members talking about flat out, yes, we've seen this stuff. We know we have it. This is what's happened. And that's going to really fuel a conversation too.
It's just true. This is Dan Farah's the producer of that, I believe.
Yeah. And that's going to
embolden. Delayed. It was delayed for a while, but it's coming out.
Well, it wasn't delayed. It was just negotiated. It's like, it's Hollywood. It's Hollywood. And people aren't doing this for free. They go like, hey, this is important and it's going to make a lot of money. And that doesn't take away from it all. Yeah. I mean, they didn't do this for free. You got cameras, you got traveling, you got to get your money back. And so when it's come out, it's going to embolden a lot of conversation. It also, I believe, will embolden a lot of people that are on the fence about coming out and speaking openly. I think it will give them cover. And those some that haven't spoken, it might give them license to come out and start speaking. Mm-hmm. It's going to have to be a preponderance of the evidence as opposed to beyond a reasonable doubt, because you're not going to get to see a flying saucer. I'd love that they roll out something from a hangar. That's not going to happen any more than, like I said, you're not going to get a tour of a nuclear submarine either. Okay, they're not going to take you from council to council and show you how all this works, or publish plans to a nuclear trigger on, YouTube or something. That's not going to happen. And this is above top secret. This information is so sensitive and so could be so destabilizing internationally that they're only going to let you get your toe in the water. But even now, if you look at the stats, 43% of the globe, the people on the globe, believe that we are in communication with non-human intelligence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the latest.
Yeah, it's the latest. 43%.
That we are in communication with NHI.
In communication, not just that they believe that we are in communication specifically. You could ask that for what it's worth. You can ask any of the AI.
A recent poll. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So that's you don't have to go a lot further. I think those that are in doubt or the skeptics, some of the skeptics, you're never gonna convince them. There are people that believe the Earth is flat and that we didn't go to the moon and that men can have babies, and there's a lot of things out there that people believe that don't pass the muster. So you may never get them to believe.
Let me ask you a couple of just kind of related questions here relating to behind the scenes there. So any kind of push to let's say release any of these transcripts, is this bipartisan, or is one side of the aisle carrying this more strongly? And also, what do you think are the biggest obstacles right now, like classification barriers or bureaucracy or behind the scenes pressure, or what do you think?
Fortunately,
and also if these were to come out, what do you think we would learn? I'm just throwing that. I just want you to answer that.
Yeah, fortunately, this has been a bipartisan push from the very beginning. People are fascinated with, they're interested. Those that don't already know, and like I said, there's already a lot that already know for certain. Those that don't know, they want to know. They don't want to be left out of the loop. That was the biggest bee in the bonnet for Congress is the general rank and file couldn't hear what Grudge had to say because they don't have the clearance. They don't even have come close to the clearance.
So we could tell it really bugged them. It really annoyed. A lot of them talked about this quite openly.
Yeah. And of course it's annoying because they're supposed to be oversight, but they can't hear it because they don't have the clearance. Now the task force does. What was the other part of the question? Okay. What would hold
any
it
obstacles
back?
Or like
the obstacle is its effect on, I would say, number one, follow the money. The obstacle is how's this going to affect the economy? Now, despite what pretty pictures they paint on the nightly news about how the economy is doing well and the stock market's doing well, when you actually crunch the numbers, you look at one trend, the rise in gold. Okay.
Exactly.
That should be the canary in the coal.
$4,000 an ounce.
Yeah. And it could go to 6,000 before the end of 2026. Same with Bitcoin, although Bitcoin has been down a little bit since the shutdown. It will race back.
It's still looking pretty good though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Compared to a year ago. Those are signals that the economy is not where we want. The BRICS nations are dumping dollars and buying gold. The unemployment rate is much higher than anyone admits. Same with the inflation rate. And the Fed has said that these are the best numbers we can put forth, but they don't reflect the actual inflation rate. Everybody knows it. You don't even include fuel in that inflation rate.
No, there's a lot of structural problems that just can't. I don't think they can fix these anytime soon.
No, and so to go on top of this, we just want to let you know we have extraterrestrial technology. We don't really know what to do with it, and it could affect a lot of things. Oh my God, who wants to do that? Okay,
well, and just wonder there could be long-term positives out of this, but I do agree with you. Like short to medium term, that could be a mess.
Yeah, and who wants to be the bearer of that news? Now, I think the Senate wouldn't mind if the president came up and said it. Hey, it's on his plate. If things go south, he's the one that released the information. If they do it, the fingers will be pointing at them. Hey, look what the Senate. It's just like when you think Bush was happy about them releasing the CIA transcripts about the waterboarding and stuff.
No, certainly not.
So would the executive branch be happy about them releasing all this stuff? If Dan Sherman's is correct, if his statements are true, that we not only are involved in communication with extraterrestrials, but we're involved in abducting American citizens and monitoring it.
Complicit. Well, because I read his book a couple of times. By the way, I'll just go on the record here and say, every time I've read Above Black by Dan Sherman, I found it riveting, and I find him credible. I'm just going to absolutely say that.
Yeah, and he comes with receipts.
Well, a lot. He's got his DD-214. You can read that. We know what he's done. I just wanted to say what relating to government knowledge of abductions. Yes, that is in his book, but I didn't get the idea that the U.S. government had any control over any of that. It's basically, unless I misread it, but ET giving information about these abductions, letting the U.S. government know this is happening, that one's happening, and so on.
That they were monitoring it, and that's complicit. If you're monitoring, monitoring a kidnapping, right. Whether it's by aliens or ISIS, you're complicit. Okay,
no question.
So that, and he's not the first one to share this. Many military abductees have shared that they saw human military personnel working with extraterrestrials.
Absolutely.
And so you're going like, okay, this does make sense. If that's true, that would talk about lawsuits and it would be ugly. So I completely understand why they go like, well, it's one thing if the CIA gets in trouble for waterboarding terrorists. That's pretty limited. But if the Pentagon gets in trouble for monitoring abductions,
who knows where that would go?
Yeah. So you can see why they'd be reluctant to do it. But you have a wild card. My understanding from the people that have spoken directly to some of the whistleblowers who haven't spoken out yet, they're ostensively young and idealistic, which is a problem to old timers, because you go like, look, kid, you don't know the kind of bear you're poking.
Yeah, you got guys like Lukatsky, who's an old timer who knows the system. But I'm glad you brought this up. A lot of these whistleblowers, you believe, are young and very idealistic. And so what's motivating these people to take any risks? Do you think that they are the ones that are pushing this? Or they're
because they don't want to, everyone talks about, like Lukatsky's, I'm not going to risk my pension. Okay. You're at that age. Okay. I can understand why you don't want to, risk your pension. These people in their middle to late 20s, early 30s, the pension seems like a long way away.
There's Matthew Brown, who spoke with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. He would be one. He's very articulate. He's young, and you could see like he has a lot of passion when he talks about this issue.
Absolutely. And I was going to mention him as an example who has been outed. He outed it himself. And they don't want to live under the sword of Damocles for the rest of their life. Doesn't make any difference what the job is. Oh, this is really cool. Like Bob Lazar still says, oh, gee, I regret having said anything because it wouldn't have been cool to continue to work on this, Well, he didn't at that time because he had a different mindset. He was much younger and much more idealistic and going, this isn't right. And that's what we're hearing from these guys. And I don't blame what in perspective, do you want to live the rest of your life that if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, even a family member, you could be whisked away to a FISA court and end up in Colorado Max with, a half-hour walk around an enclosed track each day while you're basically buried alive. So do you want to live your entire life like that? Or do you think you can reasonably fight the system and divorce the mob and come out without getting your head cut off? Now, that's the problem that Jake has shared, and he's been open about it, and he even published one complete transcript, a conversation he had with a Senate member who was threatened physically, who asked for his protection. And Jake has said, and again, this is open source, so I'm not
Jake Barber.
Jake Barber. I'm not saying anything that he hasn't said publicly, that when he did speak to the Intelligence Committee, that several of them in open session asked, can you protect us if we come forward? Your head's got to spin.
It's surreal.
Yeah. You go like, are you kidding me? You're the Senate Select Intelligence Committee. I mean, you're afraid of these guys? You're afraid for your lives. So when people ask me, well, why haven't they come forward? Are you kidding me?
How is he supposed to protect members of the Senate? I don't even understand how that's even feasible.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're passing an add-on to Obamacare or something like this. It's not like you're adding on more money for school lunches or something. You're really, really smacking the hornet's nest here. And this may be outside the Pentagon's control. I've often wondered if these, like what Mike Herrera saw, isn't part of an international cartel. That these aren't, that these guys don't answer to the Pentagon, that they have their own little militia, we know that drug cartels, people think of them as, something they've seen in the movie. These guys are really sophisticated. They have their own radar centers, on the border.
They have their own sophisticated submarines and very expensive infrastructure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one other thing. Did you say to me in an email, I'm trying to get this right, that federal law enforcement is investigating criminal activity associated with these legacy programs?
Yes.
I think that
Yes.
So what are we talking about in terms of, there's a lot of crimes that could be associated, financial, human rights, maybe security. Are there certain things that you know that they're...
Yeah.
Can you get more specific about this in any way?
Yeah, the without outing the particular branch,
right? Okay,
they're looking at targeted assassination, threats to members of the Senate and Congress, and financial shenanigans. Stealing money.
Okay, and these are federal. Are these federal law enforcement?
Federal law enforcement. Yeah.
So you want to get any more specific than that, or?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, that's look, man. That's pretty heavy duty right there. If this is true,
it is true, and you again.
I don't because I've not heard this before. Is this new?
No, this has been going on for at least through the summer.
I didn't know about it.
Okay, think about this. If you're a member of the Senate and someone breaks into your house and threatens you, maybe draws something on your wall or does something crazy. Let's look at Matthew Brown. They broke into his house, made threats, took his grandfather's ashes, dumped outside. You think he didn't talk to federal law enforcement? You think they didn't launch an investigation? Like I said, if members of the Senate are asking Jake for protection, you think they haven't talked to different arms of the federal law enforcement family to, hey, look into this. And you think they just blew it off? Hell no. Hell no.
Okay.
Of course they're going after
No,
it.
that's
and
a
they have
lot.
resources. They have resources that Arrow doesn't have. And we talk about Arrow, and Arrow is they just collect documents and interviews. They don't have mobile labs. They don't have Air Force contingency. They don't have helicopters. They don't have scuba divers. There are federal agencies that have all these things, that have labs all over the country, that have resources, that have money specifically for this type of stuff.
Let me ask you this last question on this. So would any of these federal-based investigations be visible yet, even indirectly? I don't know, sealed indictments or any other kind of
to my knowledge,
interagency?
no
Okay.
Indictments have been filed.
Right.
You'll know that because even if it was a sealed thing, it would make news. That it had something to do with the UAPs stuff. But now everyone knows that the Inspector General's office has, under the old Inspector General, it's when David Grush. Now everyone conflates David Grush's complaint of whistleblower protection with the actual investigation of the legacy programs, but they're two different things. When the Inspector General said that his investigation was credible and urgent, they weren't talking about his whistleblower protection complaint. They were talking about his investigation into the legacy program. Well, that Inspector General was fired. We have a new one in place. How far they've gone, because that's another investigative branch, federal investigative branch, I don't know. But other ones have gone and have talked to witnesses and suspects, and that's ongoing. And it's not going to stop. I said this early on. You steal from Congress, you're stealing from the mob. They don't forget, and they don't forgive. You're talking billions of dollars. Even if they need a sacrificial lamb, somebody is going to jail. You just don't go like, oh well, we lost it. We just lost the money. Somebody is going to jail, particularly in a time when money within the federal government they're looking at every dollar, closing off spigots and reining departments in. We had here just in California, we have 2 investigations. Indictments were filed of the homeless funds, $24 billion that, most of it can't be accounted for. 2 people have just been indicted on stealing millions of dollars from that.
$24 billion in homeless funds?
$24 billion.
Can all of that not be accounted for, or most of that not be accounted for?
I think the quote was like $19 billion. They don't, of the 24, they account for. Yeah.
God.
Yeah. And when you look at some of these two indictments, they were just full out scams.
Well done, California.
They just submitted false documents to get the money. It was like the COVID money. You could pretty much just send any document and they were just giving it to you.
Man, we're so far past the point of we're just in, you said it yourself, mafia. We're in it's the Godfather, but it's the government. Goodfellas, but it's the government. That's all it is.
Yeah. And
keep going. I have more questions, but keep going.
No, well, I just say you've got to rein that in. And Catherine Fitz, who she sounded the alarm back in the early 2000s.
Years ago.
Yeah, that they were stealing this money through HUD. And
that's when they went after her.
Right now that's shut down, because of the government being closed. But everyone's looking at them. where that money, what happened to that money? And all these things are just really white collar crime type, scams. They're just like, there doesn't seem to have been any oversight at how you think, it's that easy to get millions of dollars from the government just by sending false documents? Doesn't anybody check these documents? I mean, you would think that bank transcripts and stuff, you check it with Wells Fargo, like, hey, this is a real company,
Catherine wrote a really good piece on this many years ago. It was one of the best titles. She just called it The Myth of the Rule of Law. And she was talking about this whole structure. It's like law does not apply to certain groups of people. And we all kind of know that. So related to the Senate and Congress, I just want to ask one. Do you think the leadership within the Senate or Congress actually wants the UAP issue and maybe the transcripts and all of this out in the open, or is it mainly being driven by staffers or mid-level allies? And also, like, how serious are people like Kirsten Gillibrand or Marco Rubio or even Burchett or some of the others? And who do you see as the primary source opposing any kind of openness? You said financial worries, but do you have any specifics that you're thinking of? So who wants this out there, and who are the people really fighting this, in your opinion?
Well, I think the task force sincerely is fighting. I mean, that's whether you attribute it to ego.
Who are the members of the? Do we know?
Well, you have Luna, you have I don't have all the names.
They're pushing.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing. They've gotten out there, and like I said, it's ego. They just they're trying to get reelected. Well, everybody has motivations. I mean, that's as good as anything, to me. If that's going to get you elected or not, yeah, you have an incentive to go after it. That's why I'm saying that we need to petition the Select Intelligence Committee, because, just like Luna and Burchett and Burleson, these are all elected officials, and you talk to them about, hey, you want to get reelected? Release these transcripts. We want to see that release. You can put as much pressure on them as you can the task force. There's no reason not to, and just see where that goes. That's why I say it's someone like Danny, who is just his pedigree and his intelligence. I've heard him talk about his theologian background and theology, and I go like, wow, this guy he's not just playing an attorney on television. This guy is smart. I mean, he
really Sheehan is one of a kind. He's so unique. He is quite brilliant. He's very brilliant. Totally.
And that's why I would share with him, don't waste your time with this UAP bill. Go after the easy lift. Just release these transcripts. Everything is there. That's petition. You got 21 people. You don't have the entire Senate. You don't have the entire House that you have to convince. You got 21 people, and you only need a majority of them to convince to release.
So who's blocking it? I remember in the last hearing, and I think the one before that too, there were these vague statements by at least a couple of the members of Congress about these basically dark forces essentially in the way here. So who and what are the dark forces? What do you think?
Well, that's the $1 million question, is what Herrera saw an arm of black ops within the American government, a special forces branch within the American government, or are these, a pirate cartel that's acquired this technology and have the ability to blackmail governments, collapse elections, human trafficking, arms trafficking. Those would be kind of like side gigs, really, for them if they had this technology. So, who's really, mining the store? That we don't know. If you would have asked me even a few years ago, did I really believe in ARVs? I would have said, maybe something similar like the TR-3B. It's a similar technology, but it's not really anti-gravity. Now I'm not certain. Now I'm thinking maybe someone does have it. Maybe it's limited, probably limited due to fuel. If the fuel is off-world, and I know Bob said that Los Alamos only had 500 pounds of it. If that's all there is, and we can't synthesize it, it could be that they only use these vehicles on a need to basis. That the fuel's limited, and we're not. One chip is good for 20 years or whatever. It's still 500 pounds is not a lot. Yeah. So it could be that, but my guess is what's going on with these threats is possibly a pirate cartel. Because if the Senate is threatened, I don't think they'd be threatened by the Pentagon. Heck, I mean, the president can fire any of those generals. Just tells Pete, "Hey, fire so and so, fire so and so." They're gone. And the Senate and Congress can, twist the arm of the commander in chief to get rid of someone. They can swear out a complaint to the DOJ with probable cause to indict someone who's stealing funds.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I mean, I think we're talking about something beyond the U.S. government. We don't really have a good sense of the structure of the entire broad management of the UFO UAP problem. Is it connected to the U.S. government? Yes, but it clearly goes beyond that, which you're alluding to as well.
And I think that's what accounts for seeing these like triangular craft outside of restricted airspace. I remember when I saw a video of out of Texas, this guy's backyard. This thing was so low, it was hitting the treetops as it went by. It was, again, one of these things where he went out to smoke a cigarette and walk the dog 3 a.m. And this thing was so close. It was at night, but you could clearly make out the details.
Classic.
And it's actually hitting the trees as it's going on. And I'm going like, there's no way in the world that you would take an experimental aircraft into an urban area like that. That's either extraterrestrial or it's, extrajudicial. It's some pirate cartel who's doing some shenanigans. I think that's what people see in these spontaneous areas where it pops up at somebody's picnic or whatever. That is, the U.S. government just doesn't do this. They don't.
There's so many of these.
Yeah,
the quantity is way more than I think what people realize. That's why I have a hard time with the whole black budget answer to all of these. I don't dispute that there are covert aspects that we're doing that may account for some of these, but it's just vast quantity and it's global and it's like every day.
Yeah, and you're not going to risk this technology over unfriendly or unprotected skies. Why? Why would you risk it? You don't need to. I mean, you can travel across the country over areas where you'd never be seen. I mean, the only reason you would go to an urban area would be that you had to. There's no reason, other than that. Recently, and who disputed? Oh, it was on Weaponized. They were talking about a recent journal claim that, in fact, and I'm taking credit for this, that the New Jersey tri-state flap was admitted to by a drone manufacturer. And I agree with that totally. It was Petronics was the drone. They had a contract in 2019, which accounted for the Denver flap with the U.S. Navy. And George and Jeremy were laughing. Oh, they could be, how many could they have? Well, they had 300. They had 300 craft that the Navy wanted. That accounted for them flying from the sea to land because they're AI controlled. So they have to program them. They have to fly. And that's why they were in mass coming on, and they were only operating between 6 at night and 12 in the morning. Aliens don't go off shift at 12 at night,
And drone swarming technology has just improved so radically, and even in the last few years. So that's not impossible.
And that particular drone, the Petronics drone, morphed. It could go from a fixed wing to a quadcopter in flight. And what they were seeing is at a distance where it was a quadcopter mode, all the the landing lights and safety lights are so close together, it just looks like a bright orb to a camera. And then when it unfolds, it definitely looks like a regular fixed wing aircraft. And the largest one was really large. They had 3 sizes. So even though Jeremy and George laughed at that, no, that's true. And I was going to write them and tell them, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of the whole signal to noise ratio in those in the drone flap that was still troubling me. It's like you really didn't know during that whole business just like a year ago. Was it really just only focused in the New York, New Jersey tri-state area? No, we had claims that it was going on all over the place, including over parts of Europe. We had the whole over Britain and over Ramstein in Germany. So, I mean, it was really hard to know, like, what is the drone flap and what is not the drone flap. No doubt there are a lot of those were drones, but were all of these drones? I still don't think that we have a good answer on that, personally.
And we don't, but you do know the answer because of your historical knowledge. And we've talked about this before. There are some, at least at minimum, 50,000 good reports annually.
This is my estimate, and I think that's probably right.
And so on any given day, on any given night, anywhere in the world, I mean, you're likely to see something that someone would call, that's a drone, that's a drone. And when it's not a drone, okay, it's might be an orb, some type of, we see those all the time. And although right now we got Denmark and Norway claiming, oh, there's drones. Okay, show me one. I still have not seen a single video. Or
You're talking about the so-called Russian drones, or is that what they're?
Yeah.
I don't believe that at all. I think that's
oh no,
someone's operation.
Yeah, I sent someone's. Yeah, I sent, and I'll copy you on this because it was really comical. Because I always hear about, oh, how advanced the Russian drones are, and I sent them some pictures of some Russian drones that they're using in Ukraine.
Dude, their drones are good. They are advanced. They are sophisticated.
They are sophisticated, but they're not what you imagine them to be. They're not.
Well,
like
we're going to have to agree to disagree. I think they are. I'm sorry. I'll let you talk. Go. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say they're because I have pictures of the Chinese drones they're buying too. They're not going to waste their best stuff to blow it up. What you're talking about, people don't understand how simple creating a drone with an explosive or shape charge is. It's not, when we think of sophistication, we think of like the newest one that we're manufacturing. It's called the BAT. It looks similar to a manta ray. And this thing, it looks so space age. I'll send you a picture of it. And that is a very sophisticated high-end drone. And Russia does have those. And China does have those. A lot of the stuff China has.
I'm just saying the Russian drones, the Russians have perfected mass production of very effective drones for warfare. And my understanding is they're now genuinely incorporating artificial intelligence into these things. They've got a very, very capable drone fleet, but I do not believe any of those went into the European area.
And I'll send you these pictures because you got to see what we're talking about here. And I'm not dissing the effectiveness of the drones that they're using or they're manufacturing.
Because this is a long-standing American thing. This is why they've caused all these problems with the Russians, because they always discount Russian technology and they always underestimate the Russians every single time. And we see the result of it again.
What I'm sharing is what people picture, because they look online and they see the latest drones and the latest what people are manufacturing. The picture, oh, these are the drones they're using in Ukraine. No, they're not. They're much simpler. They're just as effective, but they're much
using
smaller.
jet-powered drones in Ukraine now.
Oh, I can go to well, I'd have to go on because we don't have any hobby shops around here. I can buy a jet engine online right now, an RC jet engine. I can actually go on YouTube and they have DIY.
Yeah, but they're mass producing them, and they're quite effective. This is my understanding.
They are, effective doesn't fit the picture of what you're going to see. Okay, because you're going to look at this thing and you're like, "Well, that doesn't look very sophisticated."
I don't want to take us too off track here. You're right.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be. I'm just saying that it's easier to do than you think. That's all I'm sharing. Not that it's not effective. It is. And the reason it is so effective is because it's cheap and easy to do. It doesn't take billions and billions of dollars. You can turn these things out really quickly. It's just like in the Middle East with Hamas, and they say, "Oh, they have 5,000 rockets." Yeah, they're being built in garages on simple metal lathes and stuff. It's not that hard. But are they effective? Oh yeah, they're very effective. You don't want.
Right, well, I think I diverted you. So my apologies.
No.
I want to wrap this up soon. Anyway, this has been very, very valuable. But there's one thing I believe you mentioned to me as well that I just want to discuss here because I think it's important. I think you wrote to me that the legacy programs that are dealing with the subject UAP were dangerously unattended because of the government shutdown.
Yes.
So are there certain security or management failures that you are most worried about here? What is the great concern in terms of security or whatever?
Well, if I was going to run one of the programs, would be theft. That someone's going to run off with some metamaterial or some artifact and take it to the press. You just don't have the management oversight. Well, like, for instance, let's just look at something that's right out there in the open. National Archives, okay? They're basically closed right now, okay? It doesn't mean there's nobody in the building. There are people in the building, but there's not the oversight that you would get on a busy workday. You don't have as many security personnel. You don't have anybody monitoring people clocking in and clocking out, what they're coming and going with. And even the most sophisticated security procedures, as we just saw with the Louvre, can be easily thwarted in minutes. Now,
well, maybe for the same reasons. You really get the idea that the French are just like, are they even able to have a security infrastructure that's worth anything anymore? Really, I wonder. And it might be something similar going on here.
Yeah, I saw,
especially with the shutdown.
When the pandemic began, we started, not just shutting down institutions throughout the Bay Area, large institutions that have a lot of public access, and some before the shutdown had very high security protocols. Immediately they started scaling back the security as well. Well, it's closed. We're just locking the door. And they had nobody monitoring it. And you go like, you know what? You can't leave this building unattended because there are people that want to blow it up. People in it or not. If you're all gone, and that was a big argument and debate during the pandemic. Who's going to get what and how much security and physically, and are we going to stop inspections? Because that was one of my jobs, was to go out and counter intelligence surveillance detection, was to find out who's monitoring what, who's watching watchers. Yeah. And they go, "Oh no, we don't need it. We're just shutting everything down. We're locking all the doors." Well, that's what's going on in the Virginia area right now, because we're all going home. We have no money. We're not getting paid. We're not staying here. Everyone's going home. So there's no one watching the headaches. And that's what happened the first time when people started going to the Senate Select Intelligence Committee and spilling their guts. No one's going, where's
this connection? COVID? Did we ever talk about this on the air? During COVID, that you argued COVID was a significant player,
absolutely,
in getting this subject moving forward, the UFO subject, UAP, and maybe similarly, the government shutdown might be having a similar effect. Could you just clarify that a little bit better? You kind of did, but
when you don't have any leadership in place, and they're the first ones to go because they're the most expensive. They're not getting a paycheck, so they go home. You don't have anyone watching Joe at the going like, I'm not getting paid. I'm not going home. I have to worry, blah, blah, blah. They're going to, well, I heard this guy is asking questions about what we're doing. I'm going to go talk to him. It's, you give them too much. If they're not busy, idle hands, the old saying, that they have time to think about it. And during that time, people just took the opportunity when leadership wasn't there to go talk to David Grush and knock on his door. And David has, again, said this openly, that so many of the times people came to him. He didn't have to go to them. They came to him and shared, hey, department's shut down. This is what we're doing. He's spoken about this openly.
Yeah.
We're in the same situation now. And the fever is much higher to get this out. People are much more emboldened when they see everybody else talking about it. They go like, well, my story is, you saw Dylan Borland talking about how many people in the operation he was involved in, which was an overseas one, came to him when they realized he had been dissed, and they came to him. Oh, well, this is what happened to me. Well, now that he's talking, there's others. I'm sure they're going like, wow,
Yeah, he was very compelling. I think everyone who watched him, Dylan Borland, thought this guy, he was very, very effective, I thought, at the hearing.
And he's spoken to these federal law enforcement agents.
Okay.
And given names and dates and places and what's happened. Because a lot, just the retaliation under the Whistleblowers Act, that's a crime in itself. That's a punishable act. And he clearly was retaliated. They pulled his security clearance. David went through that. They did the same thing to him. He got his clearance back. So these are things that can be addressed and are being addressed. It's slower now because no one's getting paid. The law offices are being shut down. So it hampers investigations with all federal agencies when you cut the, you're going to cut back, even though there are people willing to work. During the pandemic, my salary was cut back. They said, oh, here, you can either come in 4 days or you can take a salary cut. And I said, I'll just take the salary cut and come in, because it's not a job that you can just go like, well, the terrorists aren't cutting back to 4 days, So
some people might have taken the 4 days, and you're having less coverage.
Yeah, and some did. Some did. Some were told to. Yeah, it wasn't their choice.
Right.
There's some people that would have came in, but they were told, no, because we're locking the doors.
Well, this is an interesting.
I'm not crowing about that I did that, because there were a lot of people that took the hit and did it anyway. And what I'm sharing is that even now with the shutdown, there are people that are working no salary to see that justice gets done and that people are protected. So,
but that's a really good kind of insight and observation, I guess, about the relationship of COVID to the kind of transparency disclosure push of the early 2020s, and then maybe a connection today with the shutdown. So I think it's worth watching. I don't really know what else to ask you for this program, Allan. I mean, I'm very glad that you came on to discuss this. There's always, I think, a lot of pessimism that all of it, myself included, will have about the disclosure process, if we can even call it that. I think Jeremy and George just did a video, "Is disclosure dead?" And, I first thought was like, well, was it ever alive? Were we ever in a disclosure moment? But we're in a movement of sorts, and it is meaningful. Like, the things that are happening within Congress do matter. They are important. Our members of Congress have gone further on this issue than at any point in the past of congressional history. There's nothing that compares. The level of public discourse that we have on UFOs or UAP, whatever you want to call them, there's still so much that needs to be said, but we are way, way beyond where we have been in the past publicly, and then culturally as well. I think just look around on YouTube. I mean, there's UAP podcasters all over, and they're excellent, so many of them. So there's a much higher level of discourse. So that I think what's happened in the last few years does matter. And so for you to come on and to say, there are things happening, this isn't dead, there is a lot to be looking at here. And I think your focus on the transcripts, that's new. I think that's important to keep in mind. So I'm just glad that you brought all of this up.
I'm going to send you a list of the names of the Select Intelligence Committee that if you want, you can put it in the show notes that people can write to their offices and ask them to release the transcripts and send it to Danny. Okay. Someday I want to get with Danny and talk to him about the Carter days because
there's a lot we could go over there. Yeah. I would I'll talk with Danny Sheehan about that. I think that would be a really interesting, it's historical, but you and I did a show on this. You had your own background at the APRO organization where you talked at length about a President Jimmy Carter late 1970s initiative on, let's just say, disclosure. That never happened. There's not a whole lot of historical documentary support for this, but there is your personal testimony on this. And Danny has his own connection to the Carter White House.
Yeah, and if you look at the data points connecting the dots, what occurred from his initial task in 97 to what happened to me in 79, the whole 9 yards, it's all there. This was going on. And you can also see it in the press, with Carter's press secretary talking about they wanted to release this information. Of course, Carter saying that he wanted to release the information and going to Bush and asking him, hey, what do you know? Yeah, it was all there right beneath the surface. And I really think that Carter learned.
There's a lot we can say on this. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's, so people will, now that we've talked about this here, now I'm going to have to follow up. We're going to have to do this. we'll I look forward to it.
2, everyone is asking about volume 2, USO.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just do a quick update. So you, as the illustrator of all 3 of the USO history volumes, have a right to know. So I've just completed all of the writing. That means all of the words that go into the 2nd volume of USO history are done, and I'm happy with them. So that's those 2 things. And so it's now, I just have a couple of little things to do. I've got to create for the 1st volume, in addition to your illustrations, I had maps. I had a little map for every case, and I've got to put those in there. I haven't done that. It's just basically formatting and the index. I have to do the index. So I think, it'll be before Christmas, and maybe I'm not doing AI indexing. No, I'm not going to do that. I have certain automated systems that I'll use, but no, I'm basically doing it manually. But that won't take that long. So I'm thinking we're speaking in a later part of October. Before November's out, I'd like to have it out and published. I don't think that's impossible. I have a very, very good audiobook reader who I don't know if he'll be done by the time that I've got them out, but I'm in touch with him. But that's on the way.
I'm looking to have some easy lift Christmas presents to give out to people. So.
Oh, that would make me happy as well. So I would like that. I'm going to try. Okay. I think it should happen. And then the 3rd volume, as I've told people all along, all of those cases are done. But I tend to I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. It's true, over the language, and then over the chapter introductions, which I will have to write for that book. That'll take.
Well, you are who you are, and that's why everyone loves your work. That's why Gary Nolan says you're the one person that he leans to, and you couldn't have better praise for that. And I agree. Your work is impeccable, and that's why everyone's so excited to hear it, because
let's talk about it. The 2nd volume will be out very soon, and the 3rd volume will be out definitely in the early part of 2026.
That sounds
definitely, and then that'll be done, and that'll be good. So it'll be a project. That'll be
well. Thanks again for inviting me today. I hope that people Learn said disclosure is not dead. I'm sure the gatekeepers want to get that out there, and their bots and stuff. Oh, it's dead. It's dead. It's not dead. It's ridiculous.
We all love to. We're all like, you know, the Boston Red Sox fans before 2004 or any other sport team. I'm near Buffalo, and Buffalo Bills fans, like they're afraid to be optimistic. Anytime something bad happens, like, oh, here we go again. And I think disclosures like that. So it's very, there's a part of us that wants it to happen, but every time there's an obstacle, we're like, here we go again. It's never going to happen. But one day it will happen.
Yeah, success
one day something
requires a positive mindset. If you think it's dead because you're not going to make any effort to go any further. But if you run to a roadblock, those who will be successful are the ones that are going to, okay, this is a roadblock. How do we get around it? What do we do now? What's next? And the Senate declassification is an easy lift. 21 people. You only need the majority of them to say yes. And they could do that. The Senate's still there. Instead of trying to vote on opening the government again, they could vote on this.
Well, I want your level of optimism. I'm not saying I'm a total pessimist. I'm not a total pessimist. I tend to go down that road more often than not, though. But this is why I'm glad. I'm genuinely glad that you are bringing in a different perspective, and I think your argument seems very rational. And you know, people will comment below if they agree with you or not. But I think that's what this is all about. I'm glad that you were able to put this perspective out, and I'm sure you and I are going to talk about this again. I have no doubt.
It's great talking to you. I hope you're settling into your new digs there. Everything is going well.
Yeah, the office looks kind of similar to the old, but I put the same mat back there and set it up. But no, this is better. I've actually got some good room to work with here finally.
Is Yates settling into her new digs, or?
Yates, the Wonder Cat, is doing just great. I don't usually let her in the room when I do the recording here, but she and Tracy we're all doing great. And yeah, thanks for asking.
No, okay.
All right. Well, anyway, I want to thank everyone here for being along with Allan and me. Allan, if you want people to write to you, we can do your email. I put that below along with the list of the people if if you're up for that.
Yep.
So that's it. Allan Lavigne, thank you again for being here. Everyone who's been here with us, thank you again for your support of this channel. And which, by the way, if you like this video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, and hit on notifications. And that's it. I'll see you the next time. Let's keep fighting the good fight. Later.